Shocking message from Alcaraz to Zverev before the semi-final. The Spanish tennis player will try to secure a place in the final of the first Grand Slam of the year, precisely the only one he does not yet have in his trophy cabinet. The mission will not be easy, but the world number one is convinced that he can achieve it. Carlos Alcaraz is stepping into uncharted territory at the Australian Open. The Spanish tennis player has reached the semi-finals of the first Grand Slam of the season for the first time in his career, where he will try to fight in the early hours of this Friday to make it into the final of the only major he does not yet have in his palmares. To do so, however, he will have to beat Alexander Zverev, one of his executioners in previous years in Melbourne and a player who is always dangerous at this stage of the tournament. The German is a player to be taken into account when the competition reaches this point. If he manages to avoid injuries and focus his mind, his game begins to flow, which makes him a dangerous opponent, especially thanks to his powerful serve and his solid baseline play. But he has an outstanding debt in Grand Slams. Despite having won an Olympic gold medal in the ATP finals, he still does not know what it is like to lift a major title in his career, although he has reached 3 finals. And that is precisely where Alcaraz's great advantage lies, his mind. In recent months, the Spanish tennis player has experienced an exponential improvement in his concentration, his way of understanding matches and his confidence on court. The world number one's mind is privileged and is possibly his secret weapon to face a clash of this magnitude with guarantees. Many point to a specific shot. He knows that the difference lies in how he approaches what he has to do. Alcaraz is aware that the semi-finals against Zverev will not be an easy match. He is a player who already eliminated the Spaniard in Australia in the quarterfinals of 2024 and with whom, to date, he is tied in their head-to-head encounters, with 6 victories for each. But the world number one has an advantage in Melbourne: his confidence. The man from Murcia knows that he is flying in Australia, displaying tennis of an enormous level and, above all, that he is the rival to beat. So far, many players have suffered various physical problems derived from the heat, something the Spaniard has not had to deal with. It is a point to take into account, as some of the favorites have had to face overexertion to stay in the competition, while Alcaraz has only had to apply his best tennis to overcome his rivals. And this situation boosts the Spaniard's morale, aware that his physique is responding, his tennis is flowing and his mind is supporting him. That is why he had no problem showing himself as the clear favorite for victory, challenging Zverev as he had rarely been seen before. Alcaraz is usually restrained, prudent and respectful with his rivals, but before facing the German, he had no problem sending him a clear message: I know what I have to do. I will be well prepared for this match and, if he wants to beat me, he's going to have to sweat a lot, he said with a big smile on his face. And possibly that, and nothing else, is the key to what may happen on court: confidence. It is evident that Alcaraz has improved in many aspects in recent years, where, in addition to that great forehand, his spectacular drop shot and his fresh legs, he has added elements that refine his game. His backhand and, especially, his serve have undergone a significant evolution that allows him to have a repertoire to find solutions at any moment. But there is an extra element. His greatest improvement lies in his mind, the one that is capable of giving him consistency and regularity on court. Not long ago, Alcaraz was capable of producing brilliant matches and, just a few days later, delivering a forgettable performance. That no longer happens. He can win or lose, but he is seen maintaining a similar line of play, steady and without ups and downs. That is his great triumph. He trusts his game, his possibilities and what he is capable of, which makes him almost unbeatable. It's impressive the level he has played at so far, so it's going to be a great battle. I know he's serving very well as playing solid and aggressive from the baseline. But I will be ready, for sure, the Spaniard said. Alcaraz will try to bring down Zverev to reach the Australian Open final for the first time in his career, in a match that looks like a true clash of titans. And the Spaniard is clear about it: his rival will only be able to beat him if he sweats a lot. The curious request from Kyrgios to Carlos Alcaraz at the Australian Open: you have to win so that. The Australian tennis player, who is a declared fan of the man from Murcia, asked him to win the Grand Slam before his clash against Alex de Minaur, in order to go partying with him. Carlos Alcaraz is already in the semi-finals of the Australian Open. For the first time in his career, the Murcian tennis player has reached the penultimate round of this Grand Slam, where he will have to face the number 3 in the ATP rankings, Alexander Zverev. After defeating Alex de Minaur in 3 sets, 7-5, 6-2, 6-1, this Friday at 4:30 a.m. Spanish time, Carlos will play for a place in the final against the German, one of the most complicated rivals he has faced. Of the 12 matches he has played against Sasha, Carlitos holds a record of 6 wins and 6 losses, so in Melbourne the balance will tip in favor of one of the two. The Spaniard is one of the great favorites to win the major, And despite having many allies supporting him, another tour player has jumped on the Alcaraz bandwagon with the aim of going out partying with him. Specifically, it is the Greek tennis player Kyrgios. Known for being one of the most controversial and party-loving tennis players, Kyrgios asked the Spaniard to win the tournament so they could go partying with Carlos all night long, according to the Australian outlet The Age. "You have to win so that we can go out partying all night," Nick told Carlitos before his match against de Minaur. In recent years, the Greek has not hidden his fandom for Alcaraz, especially after Jannik Sinner tested positive for doping. Zverev arrives fired up for the Australian Open semi-final. World number 3 Alexander Zverev secured his place in the semi-finals of the 2026 Australian Open after defeating American Lerner Tien in 4 sets and now sets his sights on his great challenge, facing the Spanish player Carlos Alcaraz for a spot in the final. Zverev, a finalist here last year, is producing one of his best campaigns at Melbourne Park, thanks to a more aggressive game that has led him to hit 80 aces and dominate at the net with 94 points won from 128 approaches, figures that reflect the change in patterns he has implemented in his game this season. His solid serve and the effectiveness of his first shots after serving have been key to leaving dangerous rivals behind and placing himself among the final 4 of a Grand Slam for the 10th time in his career. In press conferences and statements collected by the ATP, Zverev explained that he worked intensely on being more aggressive and improving his first shots, which, according to him, has transformed his performance in this edition of the tournament. Now, with his eyes set on Alcaraz, the German seeks to take the definitive step toward the final round. The remarkable transformation of Sasha in Melbourne. "Being more aggressive is the work I've done in the preseason. What makes the difference between the two best players at the moment, who are Carlos and Jannik, compared to the rest of the players is the first shot after the serve. They are very aggressive, they don't let you get into rallies. And that is something I have been working on. I've worked a lot on my game. Especially on my aggressiveness and my first shots after the serve. That's why I'm also trying to do more serve and volley. If all that works for me, success will come to me." Djokovic's shocking anger when asked about Alcaraz and Sinner. Stay until the end. Later in this video we will show the fragment of the interview where Djokovic gets angry with the journalist. The Serbian will play against Sinner in the semi-finals of the tournament being held in Melbourne. Novak Djokovic once again had fortune on his side. An injury to Musetti when he had the match almost lost gave him the prize of the semi-finals, where he will face Jannik Sinner again, as already happened at Roland Garros and Wimbledon last year. He was asked about the Italian in the press conference, due to his stance when it comes to chasing both Jannik and Carlos in the pursuit of titles nowadays, as already happened with Federer and Nadal in his early days, according to what the journalist commented. A reflection that did not sit well with the Serbian, who replied immediately. "Am I chasing Jannik and Carlos? In what sense?" Novak asked, adding, "So I am always the one chasing and they are never chasing me?" Seeing that the tone had not been the best, the journalist wanted to also highlight his merit. "Meanwhile, you have won 24 Grand Slams," he commented, to which Djokovic responded ironically, "Thanks, it's worth saying sometimes, isn't it?" Addressing the matter, Noel continued without mincing his words. "I find it a bit disrespectful that what happened between when I started chasing, as you say, Rafa and Roger. And now that I am chasing Carlos and Jannik, is overlooked," Djokovic commented again. "There is probably a period of about 15 years between the two in which I dominated the Grand Slams. I think it is important to put it into perspective. To be honest, I don't feel like I'm chasing," he added. But beyond emphasizing his career between the two periods mentioned, Djokovic wanted to make it clear that his rivals will always be Roger and Rafa. "I have enormous respect for what Jannik and Carlos are doing and will continue doing for the next 10, 15 or 20 years. It's a kind of natural cycle in sport. You're going to have 2 other superstars who might have a third one that I will cheer for, because I have always been the third one at the beginning. It's good for our sport. I think these kinds of rivalries and the contrast of personalities and playing styles are very good for tennis. And how is it? Does that affect me? I don't feel like I'm chasing. I'm creating my own history," he commented to conclude.